Welcome to reality. You're now on the Code of Mind channel. From our very childhood and the school bench, we were conditioned to one extremely convenient idea for society. If your thoughts do not stop for even a second, if a powerful generator of ideas, scenarios, and dialogues operates inside you around the clock, there is definitely something wrong with you. Society instantly slaps a label on you. You are too complex, too restless, too vulnerable. They call it anxiety. They call it a disorder. They present it as a mental pathology that needs to be urgently muffled, cured, corrected, or neatly packed into the framework of the so-called norm. The modern psychology industry even came up with a beautiful, scientific-sounding and frightening term for this: overthinking. Armchair experts on social media have detailed thousands of symptoms, turning the natural work of a deep intellect into a marker of illness, while pharmaceutical giants obligingly offered millions of packs of pills, tranquilizers, and antidepressants. Their main goal is to make your brain quiet, predictable, obedient, and to turn your consciousness into a scorched wasteland that is safe for those around you. They don't need those who see 3 steps ahead. They need those who simply follow commands. But what if we flip this dogma completely upside down right now? What if I tell you that a person who thinks too much, too deeply, and too in detail is not a broken or defective version of the norm? Think about it. What if this is a fundamentally different, more advanced version of the system? One that is simply physically incompatible with the basic, gray, and simplified firmware of the majority. This is not a bug. This is not an error of evolution. This is a completely different, complicated, and multi-threaded protocol for processing reality, which by default operates at ultra-high frequencies and increased power. The Matrix rushed to give you a medical diagnosis with only one goal: to make you afraid of yourself, to make you doubt your own sanity, and to make you run voluntarily to surrender your weapons in a doctor's office. But I suggest you ask another, much more dangerous and honest question. What if this diagnosis is just a clever method of the social norm, created to force you to shut up, doubt your own power, and not stick out of the line? What if all your alleged anxiety is not a breakdown, but simply a processor that is too powerful? A nuclear processor trying to process, digitalize, and subdue this chaotic world. Let's start with dry, verified data, because facts, unlike the manipulations of the system, do not require blind faith. They simply require you to turn on your logic. In 2010, neuroscientists from Harvard conducted a massive study that forever changed our understanding of the mind. They took a group of 2,200 people, and in real time, using a specially designed smartphone app, sent them random notifications throughout the day. The questions were simple. What are you doing right now? And are you thinking about exactly what you are doing, or is your mind somewhere else? The conclusion shocked the researchers themselves. 47% of the time spent awake, the human brain is not thinking about what is happening here and now. Almost half of their conscious life, a person spends in background processes, in a continuous internal dialogue. How does this look in real life? You are standing in the kitchen, washing a plate. Your hand is rubbing it with a sponge, but mentally, you are not there. In your head, at that exact second, a massive drama is unfolding. You are mentally proving to your boss why your project is the best. Or remembering a stupid phrase you said 3 years ago on a date and thinking about how you should have answered correctly. You could be driving along a familiar route, looking at the road, but in parallel your brain is constructing a detailed plan of what will happen if your department closes tomorrow, or how to allocate the budget for 6 months ahead. The authors of the Harvard study called this phenomenon the wandering mind, and rushed to make a very superficial conclusion, stating that this habit directly correlates with a feeling of unhappiness. As in, since you are not here, it means you are suffering. But here is what they kept quiet about, whether consciously or not. They did not ask the main evolutionary question. If this mode devours a colossal amount of energy and makes us unhappy, why did nature and evolution preserve and develop it for millions of years? Why do we have a processor that physically does not know how to stop? Is evolution really so stupid as to leave half of the brain's resources for empty anxiety? Of course not. The answer lay much deeper, and it was found by neuroscientists who discovered the default mode network, DMN, the default system or the passive mode network of the brain. This is a gigantic neural structure that, paradoxically, activates to the maximum precisely when you externally do nothing, or when your brain, as it seems to you, is overloaded with thoughts and overthinking. Remember this state. You went to bed, turned off the light, perfect silence is around you. Your body is relaxed. You are not solving mathematical problems. You are not reading a book, but a real explosion begins in your head. Thoughts fly in an endless stream. The system tells you, you have insomnia, you have an anxiety disorder, take a pill, fall asleep. Now look at what this network is actually responsible for at that very second. Constructing multidimensional scenarios of the future. The brain, like a powerful supercomputer, calculates risks. What will I do if A happens? And what if B? It covers you by creating ready-made behavioral patterns in case of a crisis. Deep analysis of past mistakes. You are not just chewing mental gum remembering old fuck-ups. Your processor reassembles old experience, archives it, and draws conclusions so that you no longer step on the same rake. Empathy and reading motives. It is precisely in this mode that you begin to understand, why that person looked at me that way yesterday, what was hidden behind it. You calculate other people's masks and hidden intentions. The formation of your personal meanings and scale. Remember, the most active, youngest, and evolutionarily advanced part of your brain turns on at full power precisely when society considers you stuck or sick. When you are washing dishes or lying in the dark, and a terabyte of thoughts is spinning in your head, you are not acting dumb, you are not breaking down. At that moment, you are reassembling your reality, writing strategies, and hacking other people's scenarios. Your simulator is working at its maximum, while the basic firmware of other people is simply asleep. Now let's look at how society has learned to control those who think too much. How to ensure that a person with a powerful processor doesn't ask extra questions. That's right. You need to convince him that his processor has overheated and broken. Let's turn to the official history of mind control. In 1952, the first edition of the so-called Bible of Psychiatry, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, was published. In this thin book, only 106 mental diagnoses were recorded. 16 years later, in the second edition, there were already 182. Time went on, people became more and more conscious, and the system began to fever. In 2013, in the fifth version of this manual, the world counted as many as 374 official diagnoses. Think about this nonsense. They managed to write absolutely everything in there as an illness. You collect old things or don't throw away shoeboxes. Get a diagnosis of hoarding disorder. You get very sad and angry before critical days. Here is your dysphoric disorder. And of course, they carefully, with a caring smile, packed our overthinking in there, equating it to generalized anxiety disorder. Soon, probably, they will introduce a diagnosis of excessive mind disorder for everyone who knows how to add 2 plus 2. And now watch the sleight of hand. In parallel with how this list of illnesses grew, another much more interesting indicator grew, the pharmaceutical market. In 1986, global sales of antidepressants and sedatives amounted to a modest $500 million. And by 2023, this indicator crossed $28 billion. What sober, cynical conclusion should we draw from this? The system stamps out new diagnoses times faster than it creates normal living conditions and real meanings for people. And it is profitable from the very childhood to explain to you that something is wrong with you. Why? Because a frightened person who considers himself sick will not go to change the world. He will go to the pharmacy. He will be prescribed a pill that will simply lower the frequency of his brain, turning a bright, bubbling consciousness into a safe gray color. The Matrix is never interested in telling you for what great purposes this unique, hypersensitive mode was given to you. To understand how this works on your fingers, imagine a regular computer operating system in which there are two types of users. The first type is the basic, standard firmware, a kind of robot user. How does this look in life? A person woke up to an alarm clock, drank coffee, sat for 8 hours in the office performing the same type of tasks, came home, opened a beer, turned on the TV, and went to sleep. His brain processes data strictly after the fact. Sees a price tag with a discount, buys it. Sees bad news, gets scared. Sees a boss's command, does it. He does not look for hidden meanings, does not think about how this world is structured, and functions perfectly within the framework of factory settings. This is a model citizen, a taxpayer, and a real dream of any state or corporation. It is easy to manage them through two simple levers: fear and basic pleasure. But there is a second type, users with an extended multi-threaded protocol. And if you are watching this video, you belong to them. Your brain works like a radar that scans absolutely everything around, even when you are asleep. You walk into the office and, from the micro-expressions of your colleagues, you immediately understand that the air smells like layoffs, even though the boss just smiled and said that everything was super. You watch an advertisement for a new product, and instead of a desire to buy, your brain instantly breaks it down into cynical triggers of manipulation. You build the most complex probabilistic models of the future, noticing falsehood where the rest submissively nod their heads. And right here, the matrix gets a short circuit. It simply doesn't know what to do with your type of thinking. You are too complex. It is impossible to intimidate you with banal horror stories from the news. You cannot be bought with a penny bonus. It is difficult to manage you through simple scripts. You are constantly looking for logic, demanding meanings, and asking uncomfortable questions. And then the bureaucratic apparatus of the system turns on the only protective mechanism it has left. It declares your complexity a defect. It says, "Oh, you think too much, you probably have depression and overthinking. Go get some treatment." The system is trying to put a plug on you to reduce your bandwidth and make you just as convenient and understandable as the users from the first list. But remember, what they call your curse is actually your main evolutionary advantage. You simply see the hidden code of this game. This is reality, not a frozen hard drive with rules written once and for all. It is a living, plastic flow of data, and you are not a passive element of the extras in it, but the only main viewer and director in your own theater. And today you finally found out that your screen is much larger than the standard one. So make this show worthy of your true scale. Stop trying to shrink yourself to fit into someone else's narrow frameworks. Thank you for being with me on this channel. I wish you the best possible branch of reality. Subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Take care.